YouTube, it's Maya here. Welcome back to my channel, and guys, it is that time of the year again, back to school. I know, I don't want to go back to school either, but now that it is back to school season, it is time to get back into my back to school videos. So around this time last year, I made a video called Middle School, Things No One Told You That You Should Know, and it was actually really well received, and a lot of you guys asked me if I could do a high school version, so that's what this week's video is. But guys, if you have never been on my channel before, I'm MayaHennessey, and if you like what you're seeing, then please subscribe to my channel, click that little notification bell, that way you'll always be notified whenever I make new videos. But let's not dawdle on anymore and get straight into the video. So guys, before we get into the video, I do want to put a little disclaimer. I am not currently out of high school yet. I am actually going into my senior year of high school, whereas in my middle school video, I was out of middle school. I've had 3 years to digest and reflect everything that happened in middle school and make an overall advice video last year. Whereas this year, there are still some things I could learn that I didn't learn or didn't quite understand my freshman through junior year. But because this video was so highly requested and I really want to make this video, I think I've put together a pretty good list that you should definitely know for your freshman through junior year. So guys, my first word of advice is to time manage yourself. High school, in my opinion, is probably the most stressful 4 years of anyone's life. You're going to be taking a lot of classes, which means you're going to have a lot of homework. You're going to want to do clubs or outside and after school activities. You're going to have to hang out with your family, with your friends, and you're also going to have to keep up with your physical, emotional, and mental health. So it is a lot to put on a teenager, and I understand that as you get older, adulthood will not be any easier, but when you're an adult, you kind of have more leisure and you can kind of choose what direction you want to go in. Whereas in high school, you are kind of forced to do certain things, and colleges ask so much of students nowadays because they want kids with perfect grades that do all these clubs. And it's like, how do you do all of that and still be a human? Time management is not an easy skill to learn, so I'm going to give you guys one exercise that you can do to help you get into that habit. If you have any free time during school, do your homework. If you have a study hall, a lunch, a free period, you're not doing anything in class, or you finished all the classwork, just take out your math homework, take out your science homework, and just do it. I find that I am way more motivated to do schoolwork when I am in school, because when I get home, I just want to relax. I don't want to do homework, so I don't effectively get a lot of work done when I'm home. So what I found was it's actually really a good idea to do your homework while you're still in school, because you're kind of still in the zone and you're going to get your work done a lot faster. Plus, if you finish it in school, that leaves you more time to do things after school, like clubs or hang out with friends or family or just take a nap. My next word of advice for high school is to stay positive. There are a lot of times in high school where you're going to get really overwhelmed with a lot of the things that's going on in your life, and you may feel very negative, but just try and stay as positive as you can. I know it's not going to be fun in the moment, but if you stay positive, your mood will be a lot lighter and you're going to feel better, because if you just stay negative, you're just going to feel worse. And honestly, staying negative is not a good mindset to get into. You're gonna lose motivation and you're gonna get sad, and it's just not a good combination. So just try and stay positive, look on the bright side, and you'll get through it. My next word of advice, which is also something I said in my middle school video, is to just be yourself. I thought when I was little that high school was going to be exactly like Mean Girls or High School Musical, where there was going to be a lot of cliques and everyone was kind of divided. But honestly, that's kind of not true. I feel like middle school is way more cliquey just because everyone's trying to find themselves, so they put themselves into a category and then stick by that. Whereas in high school, a lot of the times you'll go to a bigger high school where you'll meet more people, and people are a lot more mature in high school, and they kind of care more about friends or relationships or college or their grades, and cliques kind of fade. I mean, they're still going to be there, but they're not going to be as prominent. Also, when you get out of high school, no one's really going to care if you were like the nobody or the popular person or all that stuff. Like jobs, no one's really going to ask you those kind of questions. They're more concerned with what type of person you are. And if you stay true to yourself, you're going to be able to answer that question a lot easier. And being yourself is going to be a lot easier for when you apply to colleges, because when you apply to college, you got to write a personal essay about yourself. So the sooner you be yourself and discover yourself in your own way and not try to follow the crowd, the better off you'll be. My next word of advice is to get sleep. I cannot stress enough to you guys how important sleep is. A lot of stuff happens in your sleep. I mean, I don't know specifically, but there has been a lot of research that says if you don't get sleep, your health is going to decline. Plus, when you're in high school, you're gonna have a very long day all week long. You're gonna need some rest, and your body also is going to need a break. So if you are working on a paper at 2 a.m. in the morning, stop it. Do it tomorrow. Do it when you have time. Like, go to sleep. I mean, granted, if the paper is due tomorrow, then you really should have done it earlier or just finish it at 2 a.m. But seriously, guys, don't try to stay up till like 2 a.m. every single night. It's really not good for your health, and it's also going to make you less motivated, and you're going to be tired throughout all the day, and it's overall just not a good thing. And this is why this word of advice kind of goes into the time management thing. If you time manage yourself right, then you won't have to do all of your projects and homeworks after school. If you have a project due in a week, start it as soon as you can. That way, when you get more projects throughout the week, you're not piling them all on yourself and then staying up super late. Granted, there may be 1 or 2 times where you will have to pull an all-nighter, but don't do it every night. And if you're not staying up late because you have homework and you're staying up late because you're on your phone, stop it. My next word of advice for high school is to talk to a trusted adult if you're struggling. If you are struggling in a class and you really don't understand the subject, talk to the teacher. Teachers are there to help students learn and understand the subject. They don't want any of their students to struggle. So if you are struggling, just go to your teacher and ask them if they can meet you before, after school, during a lunch period, or during a study hall. I'm sure that they would be happy to do so. What's the hurt of asking? I mean, honestly, the only thing you're going to gain from this experience is more knowledge about the subject, so you can learn how to do it better. And if your teacher is actually the reason you're struggling in the subject, I'm sure there's other resources in your school that you can find to help you. I know in my school there's this thing called the math lab and the lit lab, where teachers every single period will go in there, and if you need help in a subject, just go to it, and the teachers in there will be more than happy to help you in that specific subject. Now, on the flip side, if you are struggling mentally, physically, or emotionally because of all the overwhelming stuff you experience in high school, please go talk to your guidance counselor, an outside counselor, or your parents. High school can be really overwhelming, and it is not a good idea to keep to yourself and put all of the stress or anxiety or any other kind of illness that you may be experiencing on yourself, because honestly, you are not alone in any fight that you're battling. Please go talk to an adult that you trust, because honestly, they will help you. If you don't speak up about it, then no adult is going to know that you're struggling. So please use your voice. My next word of advice kind of goes in with the time management, and that is take time aside to study and take time aside for yourself. Studying is a huge part of high school. I have a quiz or a test in a class almost every single week, if not almost every single day, and it's going to be overwhelming sometimes. But if you can set aside time for you to study, that is super important. Say you're watching TV and it goes to commercial. Whip out your flashcards or whip out your notes and just look over them for 5 minutes. If you just do a little bit of studying every single day up to your test, it's going to help you in the long run. And you're also taking the studying one step at a time. I know a lot of people who like to cram study the night or day before the test, and that is really not a good idea, because when you cram, you kind of overwhelm your brain with all this information and it quickly forgets it. Now, the other side of this is don't overwhelm yourself with all of this stuff. Take time for yourself. If you're stressed out or you feel like you're studying too much or you really just can't look at another math equation, that's fine. Take a break. I realized in my junior year that a lot of the times I overwhelmed myself and just studied and never really took time for myself. And when I did take time for myself, I criticized myself and was like, no, you should be studying. But honestly, that's a really bad mindset to get into, because you really should take time for yourself. Granted, you do want to find a balance between these two things, because you don't want to relax too much and then not study enough, and you don't want to study too much and then not feel very good. So just try and find a balance. My next word of advice is to meet new people and try new things. In high school, there will be a lot of opportunities. You're getting older, you're going to be able to do things that you weren't able to do when you were kids. Plus, if you do end up going to a bigger high school, you're going to meet a lot of different people. My next word of advice is even something I'm still struggling with, and that is to not measure your self-worth based on your grades. Your grades do not reflect on who you are, and I think that's something that society has kind of started to understand, because you could be a really smart and intellectual person and not be a good test taker and get really bad grades. Or you could be an amazing test taker and be super bad and like dumb all the time. So it doesn't really measure who you are. My next word of advice is super, super important, and it is something I definitely had to learn during high school, and that is to know your limits. If you're doing too many activities and you know you're doing too many activities and you're having breakdowns every night and you feel very unmotivated and you're getting bad grades in school, you gotta learn to cut something out of your life. That was something that I had to face, and it was really hard to, but in the long run, you're going to thank yourself, because if you stop doing one thing, it's going to free up your time so much, and you're going to realize that that one thing was really stressing you out. Like I've been saying this entire video, high school is very, very stressful, and it's really important not to overwhelm yourself, because you already have a lot going on in school and your family and your friends. So even though colleges and everyone in society is like, you gotta do all these activities, you gotta do sports, you gotta do music and all this kind of stuff, you don't. My next word of advice is super, super important, and that is you don't need to be cool. And by that, I mean you don't have to drink or smoke or do drugs if you don't want to. It is true that all three of those things are in high school. I don't think there is a 100% way to avoid it, because there will always be people who do it, but I feel like a lot of the people only smoke or drink or do drugs because they think it's cool. Yes, a lot of those people do it because they just want to get lit and do all that fun stuff, but I don't know about you, but I don't want to hurt my body. And also, I kind of want to remember what happened the night before. I mean, that's just me. I don't think it's that cool to like smoke or do drugs or whatever. You can do whatever you want, like I said, but if you don't want to do it and you're being peer pressured to do it because everyone thinks it's cool, it's not. And guys, my last tips and advice for surviving high school is to listen and pay attention. If you want to have decent grades, if you just want to get through high school, then just listen. Teachers are not just giving out information to give it out. They're giving it out to you so you can listen, retain it, and then apply it. My biggest pet peeve is when a teacher explains something, students don't pay attention, and then they complain that they got a bad grade because they didn't do what the teacher asked. Guys, it is just so simple. It is such a childish thing. I understand that as a teenager in high school, you are still a kid, but I mean, if you are not going to pay attention and then you're going to get a bad grade, don't complain about it, because you're just doing it to yourself. I'm getting through high school by listening and paying attention. It's not super hard to do, and honestly, it's going to prepare you for the rest of your life, because in college and in jobs, you're gonna have to listen and pay attention. So guys, that is my advice for everyone who is going into high school. If you guys have any questions regarding high school or even middle school or the transition from middle school to high school, please leave them down in the comments below and I will try to respond and give you as much advice as I can. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!